It started on one of those nights. You know, the kind that just feels wrong the second the sun goes down. Maple Hollow was buried under a brutal winter storm. The wind screamed through the pine trees like something alive. Snow slapped against the windows so hard it sounded like fists. And inside the little blue house on Willow Bend Road, everything was falling apart. Amelia Brooke, 8 years old, tiny, soft-spoken, curled under her bed, knees pressed so tight to her chest it almost looked painful. She wasn't crying, not anymore. Crying made sound, and sound got you hurt. Upstairs, Travis Hale was losing it again, and when Travis lost it, he didn't just yell, he erupted. "Where are you?" His boots smashed into furniture, into walls, into anything unlucky enough to be in reach. Another crash. A lamp? A chair? Amelia stopped trying to guess. Every noise blended into one long, jagged scream of a sound that filled her chest and made it impossible to breathe. The ceiling light flickered. Once, twice, then buzzed violently and went out. For a moment, the only thing she could hear was her own heartbeat, pounding, hard, too loud for such a small body. Then, boom! The front door slammed. He was getting closer. Amelia's breath hitched. She clamped both hands over her mouth. She didn't want to make a sound, not even a whimper. The floor vibrated beneath her. Every step of his boots, heavy, angry, rolled through the house like distant thunder. "Little girl," he growled, dragging a chair across the floor. "Think you can hide from me?" Her entire body jerked. She pushed herself deeper beneath the mattress. Dust stung her eyes. A spider web brushed her cheek. She didn't even flinch. Outside, the storm hurled itself against the house. Snow hammered the windows like knuckles. Branches snapped. The wind howled through the siding. High, thin, almost like crying. It sounded like the storm was weeping with her. Faisal. But she didn't cry. She couldn't. A picture frame shattered in the hallway. Travis cursed, loud enough to rattle the walls. "Always making things difficult," he muttered. "Always making me deal with this." He stumbled closer. Amelia's lungs locked. Tiny, sharp breaths stabbed inside her chest. Dizzy, lightheaded, like drowning, without water. Then his boots stopped. Right outside her bedroom door. She froze. Even her heartbeat seemed to pause. The door creaked open, painfully slow, like the house itself was afraid. "Amelia." His voice, low, poisoned. The lights flickered again. Twisted shadows crawled across the room, warping into claws, into reaching hands. Crack! His boot slammed against the bed frame. Amelia bit down on her sleeve, hard, so hard the fabric bunched between her teeth. Her hands shook violently. She pinned them under her legs to keep them still. "Come out," he hissed. "Now!" The storm screamed louder, rattling the glass, almost like it wanted to rip the house open and pull her somewhere safer. But storms can't save people. Storms just watch. Travis crouched. She heard his knees pop, heard his breath, hot, angry, sour, bleeding into the air above her mattress. "Fine," he muttered. "If you won't come out." His hand dropped, reaching under the bed. Amelia didn't breathe. Not at all. His fingers skimmed the floorboards. Closer. Closer. A little more. Then, a slam. From the back door. Wind exploded into the house. Footsteps. Fast. Heavy. Purposeful. Voices. Real voices. "Sheriff's office! K9 unit entering!" Everything froze. Even Travis. Then, the sound that sliced through the entire house like a blade. A single, sharp, controlled bark. A command. A warning. A promise. Travis shot to his feet. Amelia finally breathed. A tiny, broken gasp. She didn't know who was coming. Didn't know what was happening. But something deep inside whispered, "Stay still. Stay hidden." Footsteps thundered down the hall. A door crashed open. The storm howled from the porch. Then, a new silhouette filled her doorway. Broad, calm, steady. A flashlight beam swept across the floor, cutting away the darkness. And a massive German shepherd stepped inside. His breath fogged in the cold air. His ears stood tall. His tail hung low and steady. And his eyes, warm amber, glowed like lanterns in the dark. K9 Unit Zephyr. He didn't bark, didn't growl, didn't charge. He simply lowered his head, sniffed once and turned slowly toward the bed, toward her. And for the first time that night, Amelia felt something other than fear. She felt safe. The house was still shaking with Travis's rage when the front door got blasted open. I mean, really blasted, like someone had kicked straight through the storm itself. The hallway lit up in harsh, sweeping beams of white as flashlights cut across the chaos. Boots stomped through broken glass. Voices layered over each other. "Clear the kitchen! Left hallway, go! K9 ready?" Amelia couldn't see any of it from under her bed. But she felt it. Like the air finally shifted. Like someone stronger than the fear had stepped inside. Officer Jace Miller was the first silhouette through her bedroom door. Tall, fast-moving, voice calm in that strange way people get when everything's going to hell. He didn't yell, didn't panic, just stepped over the overturned dresser and murmured, "Zeph, take point." And then, the dog moved. K9 Zephyr slipped into the room like he'd been born from the darkness itself. Not loud, not dramatic, just this steady, controlled presence that made the shadows look like they belonged to him. His coat was dark gold and black, snowflakes still melting on his back from outside. His breath fogged the cold air in slow, calm puffs. Nothing about him hurried. nothing about him afraid. The storm outside roared louder, but under the bed, Amelia could hear only one sound, the soft click of Zephyr's paws on the wood floor. Closer, closer. Her head throbbed with fear. Her hands trembled so badly, she accidentally bumped the underside of the mattress. Just a tiny tap, but loud enough to freeze her like she'd been caught stealing air. Zephyr stopped. His ears twitched toward her. Then his nose dipped lower and lower. And finally, he lowered himself onto his belly and slid halfway under the bed. Amelia gasped. Quiet. But Zephyr heard it. He turned his head just enough for their eyes to meet. And those eyes, warm amber, focused, steady, not judging, not demanding, just seeing her. It was the kind of look that said, I found you. You're okay. Time was. Amelia tried to shrink back, but there was nowhere left to go. The wall pressed against her spine. Dust tickled her throat. Her heart beat so hard she could hear it in her teeth. Zephyr didn't push closer, didn't bark. He simply stayed where he was, letting her look at him, letting her decide if she believed him. For a long moment, Amelia didn't move, couldn't move. She didn't trust her legs, wasn't sure they'd even work. Then Zephyr did something small, so small she almost missed it. He exhaled, one deep, warm breath that washed over her freezing fingers, a breath that felt safe. Her eyes stung, her chest loosened, like a rope tightening around her lungs had been eased. She reached out one finger, just one, toward him, and Zephyr, being Zephyr, nudged her gently with his nose, a whisper of a touch, a quiet promise. Come on, kid. I got you. Amelia choked on a tiny sound, half sob, half relief, then slapped her hand over her mouth again. Zephyr tilted his head. He knew fear. He'd smelled it 1,000 times. But hers felt different, like it was carved into her bones. Behind him, Officer Miller crouched low. His voice was softer than she expected, gentler. Hey, sweetheart. You're okay. My partner's got you. Amelia peeked past Zephyr, just enough to see him. Uniform dusted with snow, flashlight steady, eyes kind in that tired, seen-too-much way. He didn't look scary. He looked worried. Zephyr crawled forward a few more inches, slow, careful, patient. Then he placed one big, warm paw right in front of her hand, as if saying, your turn. Her breath quivered, her fingers trembled, but she placed her small hand in his fur, and the world didn't end, didn't explode, didn't hurt. It softened. Zephyr backed out from under the bed, guiding her with tiny, careful steps. Amelia crawled after him, knees scraping the wood, but she barely felt it. Her fingers stayed buried in his coat, as though letting go meant falling back into the nightmare. When her head finally cleared the edge of the bed, the room looked smaller, broken, sad. Dented walls, cracked toys, curtains half torn. Officer Miller swallowed hard when he saw her face. Good job, Zeph. Then, softer, rate 82%, pitch 2st. You're safe now, I promise. She didn't answer. Couldn't. But her grip on Zephyr said everything. The German shepherd sat tall beside her, chest out, tail low but steady. A guard posted between her and the entire world. And maybe this sounds dramatic, but something shifted in that moment. Like the nightmare didn't own her anymore. Because Zephyr wasn't just a police dog. He wasn't just trained. He wasn't just doing his job. He showed up like the storm finally had backup. And the darkness finally had something to be afraid of. If Zephyr finding her under that bed was the first spark of safety, then moving into the Parker family's home was supposed to be the moment everything turned around. At least that's what everybody kept saying. You're safe now. She's in a good home. She'll settle in soon. Yeah. Well, trauma doesn't follow a calendar. The Parker house sat at the very edge of Silver Ridge, a quaint little neighborhood with big maple trees, old porches, friendly neighbors waving from driveways. The kind of place people brag about living in. The kind of place where kids ride bikes till sunset and forget to come home for dinner. But for Amelia Brooke, it didn't matter if the house was painted sunshine yellow or wrapped in barbed wire. Her fear followed her through the front door like a shadow that refused to stay outside. Mrs. Parker, soft-voiced, always smelling like fresh laundry, held Amelia's backpack and smiled gently. Sweetheart, this is your room. The room was nice. Too nice, maybe. Bed sheets with tiny stars, a lamp shaped like a little fox, a fluffy rug that swallowed your toes whole. Someone had tried really hard. Someone had thought, a child will heal here. Amelia stepped inside quietly, hands tucked to her chest, eyes darting like a bird trapped in a glass box. Mr. Parker set down a box labeled books, even though Amelia couldn't remember packing any. We're glad to have you, Amelia. She nodded. Not because she understood, not because she agreed, but because nodding was safe. That first night, the Parker house felt too still, too bright, too unfamiliar. Amelia lay on the new bed, staring at the ceiling, the soft glow of the fox lamp doing nothing to chase away the memories clawing at her mind. And then it started again. The voice, not real, just memory. But her brain didn't care. Where are you? Come out. Now. She squeezed her eyes shut, pulled the blanket to her chin. Her jaw trembled so hard her teeth clicked. The storm from Maple Hollow wasn't outside anymore. It was inside her ribcage. She didn't scream, didn't move, didn't dare. Morning came, and she drifted through the house like a ghost. Silent, careful, never touching anything she didn't have to. The Parkers tried. Would you like pancakes? We can paint your room any color. You can call us Mandy and Tom if you want. But Amelia just stared at her socks, hands twisted in her sleeves. She wasn't being cold. She just didn't know how to be anything else. Then, 3 days after she moved in, something changed. It was a Thursday afternoon. The rain finally took a break. The sun peeked through the clouds like it was checking whether it was safe to come out. Amelia sat on the couch, legs tucked under her, a cartoon flickering quietly on the TV. Forgotten, unnoticed. Then, tires rolled over the gravel driveway. A car door shut. A familiar jingle of metal. Her head snapped up. Mrs. Parker peeked in with a smile. "Someone came to see you." Amelia's heart knew before her mind did. Zephyr trotted into the room, coat shimmering, tongue peeking out, tail swaying in that low, steady rhythm that said he understood the energy in the room. Officer Jace followed behind with a small wave. "Hey, kiddo. Thought we'd check in." Zephyr didn't wait for permission. He walked right up to Amelia and sat at her feet like he'd done it his whole life. Amelia's fingers twitched. Then slowly, carefully, she reached out. Her hand touched his fur. Warm, real, grounding. Her shoulders dropped a little. Not relaxed. She wasn't ready for that. But less tense. Less hunted. Jace knelt beside them. "He missed you," he said. "Honestly, he paced around the station so much we thought he'd wear a track into the floor." A tiny sound escaped Amelia. Not a laugh, not a word. Just something soft, something human. Zephyr leaned in, resting his chin gently on her knee. He didn't demand eye contact, didn't push, didn't force closeness. He simply existed next to her in that quiet, patient way only dogs seem to understand. And for the first time since arriving in Silver Ridge, Amelia wasn't thinking about Travis, or storms, or doors breaking, or shadows reaching for her. She was just here, with him. Zephyr let out a soft huff, a warm, gentle exhale, and Amelia's lips twitched barely, a smile, but enough that Mrs. Parker had to cover her mouth to hide her tears. The silence between Amelia and Zephyr wasn't awkward, wasn't heavy, it was healing. Two souls that didn't need words because they recognized each other's broken pieces. And maybe, just maybe, that's why it worked. As the visit went on, Amelia's body language shifted. Small changes, easy to miss, but real. Her shoulders lowered. Her breaths deepened. She leaned her cheek briefly against Zephyr's head like it was the only place gravity didn't hurt. Officer Jace noticed. Mrs. Parker noticed. Amelia didn't. She was too busy finally feeling safe. And now, just to keep things real, if it were you, which one would heal you faster? A gentle family. B, a loyal dog, or C, both together. If having Zephyr visit the Parker house felt like someone finally opened a window in a room that had been sealed shut for too long, Then what happened in the days after was even quieter, even smaller, but powerful in that weird, gentle way healing sometimes starts. Not a miracle, just the first cracks where light managed to slip in. Amelia didn't change overnight. Nobody expected her to. But something tiny had shifted inside her. Like a rusted gear finally creaked a little. Mrs. Parker noticed it first. One morning she peeked into Amelia's room to drop off clean laundry and froze. Not because anything was wrong, but because, for once, Amelia wasn't curled up in bed or pacing by the window. She was sitting on the floor with her legs crossed, a cardboard shoebox open in front of her, colored pencils scattered everywhere. The red one had no tip left. The blue one was chewed on. The yellow one was snapped clean in half. And Amelia was drawing. Mrs. Parker didn't say a word, didn't want to scare the moment away. She just backed out quietly, wiping tears from her eyes, like she'd witnessed something sacred. Later that afternoon, Zephyr and Officer Jace stopped by again. Amelia heard the jingle of Zephyr's collar from halfway across the house, and she moved. Not fast, not excited. Just this urgent little walk that said something in me feels safe again. Jace gave his usual gentle wave, but Amelia didn't look at him long. Her eyes were locked on Zephyr, who sat politely at the door until she reached him. He leaned forward and nudged her hand with his nose. Her shoulders loosened, for the first time that day. "Hey, kiddo," Jace said softly. "He brought something for you." Amelia blinked up at him, curious. Zephyr's vest had a tiny pouch clipped to the side. Jace unlatched it and pulled out a small sketchbook. "We thought maybe, since you like drawing." He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Amelia took the sketchbook with both hands, cradling it like something fragile, something alive. From that day on, she carried it everywhere, not to show anyone, not yet, just to keep it close, like a secret she wasn't ready to let go of. One quiet afternoon, the house hummed with the dryer's low rumble and the soft tick, tick, tick of the kitchen clock. Amelia sat on the living room rug with her sketchbook open, pencils scattered in a messy halo around her. Zephyr lay beside her, paws stretched forward, chin resting on the floor, eyes half closed, listening to dreams only dogs could hear. Amelia was drawing a scene she'd replayed in her mind 1,000,000 times. But today, she finally had the courage to put it on paper. In the picture, Travis Hale towered behind her, a dark shape, a shadow she remembered too well. But standing between them, tall, fierce, steady, was Zephyr. Not the real Zephyr, her Zephyr, the one from the nightmares, the one who had found her when she couldn't find herself. She drew him bigger than life, shoulders broad, stance strong, teeth bared not in anger, but in protection. Like he was saying, "Try me." She drew herself small, crouched behind him. Then her pencil hovered. She looked over at the real Zephyr, warm, calm, breathing softly beside her. He opened one eye, watched her, then closed it again, as if telling her, "It's okay. Keep going." So she did. She added her tiny hands gripping his fur, added little motion lines showing how close she felt to him, added a faint glow around him. Maybe light, maybe safety. She didn't know the right word. She just drew what she felt. When she finished, she let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Her hands trembled, not with fear this time, but with relief, with release, with finally facing something big. Zephyr shifted closer. Amelia didn't notice until his head nudged her arm. A gentle, steady weight. He pushed just enough for her hand to rest on his head. His fur was warm, grounding, real. And then Zephyr closed his eyes. A full, heavy, trusting blink, like he was saying, "I'm here. Keep breathing." Something broke open inside her. Not pain, not fear. A knot loosening, a door unjamming, a cage opening. A tiny sound slipped out, a soft exhale, followed by something so small you'd miss it if you blinked. A laugh, a real one. Quiet, shaky, almost confused at its own existence, but absolutely a laugh. The first in 2 months. Jace heard it from the doorway. His whole body froze, like someone hit pause on him. He didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. Eyes glassy, throat tight, because he had been waiting for that sound, hoping for it, praying for it. And now it was here, fragile but alive. Amelia didn't notice him. She was too busy resting her forehead against Zephyr's head, whispering something he probably didn't understand, but most definitely felt. The light didn't come crashing in at once. It never does. It came in cracks, small ones, soft ones, like this. Just enough to remind her she wasn't trapped anymore. If the first laugh slipping out of Amelia felt like a window cracking open, then what happened next was the moment the whole room finally got its air back. Something shifted inside her. Small, quiet, but powerful in that gentle way healing usually works. No fireworks, no big scene, just one breath after another becoming a little less shaky. It started on a Thursday afternoon, the kind of day that isn't special at all, which somehow makes it even more special later. The sky over Silver Ridge was a soft, pale blue, like the world itself was in a calm mood for once. The Parkers' backyard smelled like cut grass and warm dirt, dust particles floating in the sunlight like tiny, lazy fireflies. Amelia sat on the back steps, knees pulled up, chin resting on top. Not sad, not scared, just thinking. Lost in the kind of thoughts kids have when they're trying to rebuild a world that broke on them too fast. Zephyr sprawled beside her like a furry shadow, big, silent, patient. He wasn't even wearing his vest. Jace had taken it off the moment they arrived. "He's off duty today," Jace said. "Just a friend visiting a friend." And honestly, that's exactly what it looked like. Every few seconds, Zephyr glanced at Amelia, An ear twitch, a tail flick, then went back to staring at a squirrel like he was trying to decode its entire life story. Amelia finally reached out, slow, hesitant, curling her fingers into the thick fur around his collar. Not gripping, just holding. Just enough to feel tethered to something living. She kept her eyes on the grass, lashes low, lips parted, thinking of something she couldn't yet say out loud. Jace leaned against the porch railing, giving her space. Mrs. Parker hummed off-key in the kitchen. Mr. Parker fiddled with the garden hose like it was a bomb he didn't trust. Everyone pretending to be casual. Everyone quietly watching over the same little girl. For 5 minutes, maybe 10, nothing happened. Just the breeze. Just the birds. Just Zephyr breathing beside her. Then it happened. So fast, so soft, that nobody realized it at first. Amelia leaned closer, pressing her forehead into Zephyr's neck. His fur muffled her breath. Her fingers curled deeper into his collar like she was riding out an earthquake only she could feel. And then, barely louder than the air leaving her lungs, she whispered it. Zephyr. A sound so faint, so fragile, it could have been mistaken for wind. But it wasn't wind. Jace froze. Completely. Like someone unplugged him from the world. Mr. Parker dropped the garden hose. Water soaked his shoes, and he didn't even blink. Mrs. Parker rushed to the doorway, dish towel in hand, eyes wide, like she'd just seen a ghost take its first breath. Because that was it. The first word. The first sound. After 68 days of silence, Amelia didn't even realize she'd said it. Her lips moved again, soft, searching, like her brain was testing the shape of the name she hadn't spoken since that night in Maple Hollow. Zephyr turned his head, pressed his cheek gently against her temple, as if saying, "I hear you." And that's when Amelia realized what she'd done. She sucked in a sharp breath, eyes wide, panic flickering, like she thought someone would scold her for speaking. But nobody moved. Nobody rushed. Nobody made a sound. They just watched. Not like she was fragile. Not like she was broken. But like she'd just done something brave without knowing it. Jace was the first to find his voice. "Hey." He stepped closer, but not too close. You said his name." Amelia stared at him, confused, embarrassed, unsure if she'd done something wrong. So Zephyr, brilliant, steady, heart-strong Zephyr, saved the moment again. He nudged her chest with his nose. Just one soft push. Amelia let out a tiny sound. Not a word, not a laugh, but something in between. Something human. Her hand rose to cup Zephyr's face. She opened her mouth again. Zephyr. This time it was clearer. Still small, still trembling. But real, her word. Mrs. Parker covered her mouth, tears spilling fast. Mr. Parker wiped his face with the bottom of his shirt, like nobody was watching. Jace turned away for a moment, like he needed to hide how much it hit him. His voice cracked anyway. "That's his name, kiddo. You got it right." And Amelia, she didn't run. She didn't shrink. She didn't curl away. She leaned into Zephyr, not hiding, resting, letting herself exist in a world where speaking wasn't dangerous anymore. The Parker backyard, once just another place she was trying to survive, felt warmer, softer, like a beginning. And somewhere in all that quiet healing, a truth settled over everyone there. This wasn't just a child learning to talk again. This was a child learning to live again. If Amelia saying Zephyr's name was the moment the world finally took a breath, then what happened next was the moment that same world exhaled wrong, and everything tightened again. Healing doesn't move in straight lines. Sometimes it swings back hard, and this swing hit like a gut punch. It started with a knock on the door. Not loud, not threatening, just 3 soft taps. But somehow it sliced the air inside the Parker house clean in half. Mrs. Parker answered it, and even from the hallway, Amelia felt something shift. Something heavy, like the house itself forgot how to breathe. Voices murmured, papers rustled. A soft, "Thank you, sir," drifted through the doorway. Then Mrs. Parker appeared at the end of the hall, holding a white envelope like it was radioactive. Her face wasn't sad. Not exactly. More like someone trying not to fall apart too fast. "Amelia, sweetheart," she whispered. "Could you come here for a second?" Amelia froze. Her fingers curled into the fabric of her shirt. Her heartbeat fluttered, like a bird trapped inside her ribs. She looked around for Zephyr, her anchor. But he wasn't here yet. Just quiet hallways and shadows that suddenly felt too big. Mrs. Parker knelt down, bringing her eyes level with Amelia's. "This isn't your fault," she whispered. "None of this is your fault." She opened the envelope. Inside was a court summons. Judge Marlon Reeves was requesting Amelia Brooke to testify against Travis Hale. The world didn't just wobble, it cracked. Amelia didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't run, she just shut down. Her breath went thin. Her hands shook like she was trying to hold on to something slipping through her fingers. Mr. Parker muttered, "Damn it," and punched the side of the fridge. Not hard. Just enough to let the panic escape his chest. Mrs. Parker wrapped her arms around Amelia, but the girl didn't move, didn't blink, didn't react. She'd gone back to that house in Maple Hollow without ever leaving Silver Ridge. That night was worse. So much worse. The world outside was calm. Crickets chirping, a breeze brushing the trees. But inside Amelia's mind, a storm was tearing everything apart. Her nightmares came back. Not identical, but close enough to leave her gasping, awake. She ended up on the floor beside her bed, curled into a tight little ball, hands over her ears. The nightlight glowed warm, but it didn't reach the corners, didn't soften the memories. She whispered, barely a sound. No, 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 no. Fear escaping in the shape of a breath. The door creaked open. Zephyr padded in first, silent, steady, purposeful. Jace followed, face tired, jacket half-zipped like he left home the second he got the call. The moment Zephyr saw her, something in him changed. His posture lowered, his steps slowed, his whole body softened, the way only a dog with a mission can soften. Amelia lifted her head, sobbing silently. Zephyr crawled toward her on his belly until his nose touched her knee. She grabbed him instantly, burying her face in his neck like she was falling, and he was the only branch within reach. Jace lowered himself onto the floor beside them. I know, he murmured. I know, kiddo. I'm sorry. I wish they didn't need you for this. She shook her head violently. Her fingers clutched Zephyr's fur like someone might rip him away. Jace swallowed hard, voice raw. Testifying doesn't mean you're alone in there. Not for one damn second. He reached into a small duffel bag. I brought something, he whispered. It's not perfect, but he exhaled shakily. Helped Zephyr on the bad nights. He pulled out a single black K9 duty boot. Old, scuffed, Velcro worn, insignia nearly rubbed off. A boot that looked like it had survived a war. Jace placed it gently in front of her. This was Zephyr's first duty boot, he said softly. He wore it on his first real rescue. A breath. A pause. It kinda became his good luck charm, his armor. When he was scared, or when we were scared for him, this helped. Amelia stared at it. Really stared. Her breathing slowed a little. Her shoulders eased. Her trembling fingers brushed the edge of the boot, then pulled back, uncertain. Jace nodded gently. It's yours now, just for when you need it. You don't have to wear it. Just hold on to it when things get hard. Amelia looked at Zephyr. Big, steady, unshakable Zephyr, then back at the boot. Finally, she pulled it into her lap, her arms wrapped around it like it was a shield. Her breath steadied. Zephyr nudged her forehead with his nose. Jace leaned back against the wall, exhaustion on his face, relief in his shoulders, because Amelia wasn't spiraling alone anymore. She had armor. She had Zephyr. She had a voice slowly returning, even if fear was trying to drag it back down. Silver Ridge slept, but in one small bedroom, a little girl prepared for a storm bigger than anything she'd ever faced. And this time, she wasn't going into it empty-handed. She had the heart of a K9, and the boot of one too. If the night Amelia got her court summons felt like a storm building, then stepping into federal courtroom 9B the next morning was like walking straight into the hurricane's mouth. Everything felt too big, too bright, too loud, even when no one was speaking. The ceilings stretched high above her like they were crushing the air. Lights buzzed just enough to make her skin prickle. Papers rustled. Shoes clicked. People whispered. Every sound felt sharp, like glass under her feet. And Amelia? She could barely breathe. She clutched Zephyr's old K9 boot to her chest, far too big for her tiny arms, almost comically oversized. But she held it like armor. The leather pressed against her ribs, grounding her in that wobbly, fragile way a child holds on to the only thing that still makes sense. Officer Jace walked a step behind her, tense as a wire ready to snap. The Parkers sat in the second row. Mandy already crying, Tom gripping her hand. But everyone else? They just saw a scared little kid holding a police dog's boot. Judge Marlon Reeves adjusted his glasses, stern but not unkind. Let's proceed. And then, Elliot Crane stood, sleek suit, sharp smile, confidence dripping like oil from every polished word. The kind of defense attorney who played a courtroom like a piano. And right now, he was warming up the first note. "Well, well," he said loudly, "looks like the witness has a fashion statement today." A few chuckles, a cough that tried to hide a laugh, a reporter smirking behind her laptop. Amelia froze mid-step. Heat rose up her neck, burning her cheeks so fast she felt dizzy. She pulled the boot closer, like she could hide inside it. Crane stepped forward again, voice dripping fake sympathy. "Sweetheart," he purred. "Did someone tell you to bring that? Or is it just part of the show?" A wave of whisper laughs rolled across the courtroom. Amelia's lungs locked. Her fingers curled around the strap, white knuckle tight. Her knees wobbled. Her body shook in small, fast tremors she couldn't control. Jace clenched his jaw. Judge Reeves slammed the gavel lightly. "Mr. Crane, enough." But the damage was already done. Amelia stared at the floor, vision blurring, throat closing, slipping back into that dark, airless place she thought she left in Maple Hollow. Then, a sound. Claws. Fast. Focused. Zephyr exploded into motion. Not wild, not aggressive, just laser-focused. With purpose only he understood. The courtroom jolted as the German Shepherd sprinted straight toward Amelia, ears pinned, eyes locked, not on her, but on the boot. Jace shouted, "Zephyr, stay!" But Zephyr didn't listen. Not today. He skidded to a stop in front of Amelia, sniffed once, sharp, decisive, then shoved his paws against the boot, hard. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Crane barked, "Control that dog!" But Zephyr wasn't attacking. He wasn't scared. He wasn't confused. He was digging. He scraped, nudged, pawed, hooking the Velcro strap with precision until the boot popped open. Something small and silver rolled onto the polished floor. Clink, clink, clink. Silence. A recorder. Tiny. barely bigger than a thumb. It spun once, twice, then stopped at Elliot Crane's expensive shoes. Crane stared down at it, color draining from his face. Jace's heart nearly stopped. Judge Reeves leaned forward, chair creaking. "Mr. Miller, is that—" Before Jace could answer, the recorder crackled. Static, a pop, then a voice Amelia knew too well, a voice that had haunted her dreams for months. Travis Hale. Clear, cold, unmistakable. "Konbe Chang Noidukji," he sneered. "She won't talk. She's useless." The room froze. "You hear me?" the voice continued. "No evidence, no witness, no case." A dark laugh. "I'm clean. I told you. I'm untouchable." And just like that, the courtroom shattered. Gasps erupted. A juror dropped her pen. Reporters scrambled. Crane's jaw twitched like he'd swallowed a bug. Judge Reeves slammed his gavel. "Silence! Everyone, silence!" Amelia stood still, not shaking, not shrinking, just breathing. Slow, deep, like the storm was finally passing through her chest. Zephyr sat beside her, chest puffed, eyes sharp, tail still. Not just a dog, a witness, a guardian, a truth finder. And in that moment, the entire courtroom knew it. Before we jump to the next explosion of drama, if you were sitting in that courtroom, what would hit you harder? 1. The recording. 2. The crowd going silent. Zephyr exposing the truth, or 6. Something else completely. If the moment that recorder rolled across the floor felt like the world holding its breath, then what happened next was the world exhaling. Finally, violently, truthfully. The recorder didn't stop after that first confession. No, it had more to say, like it had been waiting months to unload everything. Static. A click. Then Travis Hale's voice poured into Federal Courtroom 9B, like poison draining out of a wound. "Look, man, I cleaned it all up," the recording sneered. Arrogant, careless, drunk on the illusion of being untouchable. "The cops got nothing. No blood, no prints. The kid won't talk. She's a shaking little leaf. She freezes when anyone looks at her. They can't build a case on a mute." A collective gasp rippled through the room, sharp, audible, like the air temperature dropped 10 degrees. A juror grabbed her chest. A reporter whispered, "Oh my God," forgetting her mic was live. Even Elliot Crane staggered back a full step, as if the truth physically hit him. But the recorder wasn't done. Not even close. Travis's voice grew darker. And if she ever did open her mouth, a scoff. No one would believe her. Not over me. I made sure of that. "You hear me? I'm fine. They got nothing." He laughed. A quiet, cruel, stomach-twisting laugh. The courtroom went silent. So silent you could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights. Faces tightened. Anger, horror, disbelief. Take your pick. every emotion fit. Then, bang! Judge Reeves slammed his gavel, so hard the echo rattled the wooden benches. He didn't sit. He didn't waver. He rose from his chair slowly, like the weight of what he heard lifted him to his feet. His jaw clenched tight, a muscle twitching near his ear. His knuckles whitened around the gavel. His eyes were glassy, not tears, but close. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice thick, strained. "We have just heard the truth." He swallowed hard. "This is not the kind of truth that needs cross-examination, not the kind that needs interpretation, not the kind that needs argument." His voice cracked, just barely. "This is a confession." The courtroom seemed to tremble, not physically, but emotionally, like justice itself had kicked the door down. Elliot Crane looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. Travis Hale went red, then white, then some twisted color in between. A bailiff instinctively stepped closer to him. But Amelia, she didn't look at the judge, or Travis, or the stunned crowd. She looked at Zephyr. Her trembling hands slowly lowered from her chest, fingers loosening. Her shoulders sagged, not from fear, but from release. Like someone finally lifted a weight twice her size. Her eyes shined, not with terror, but with something soft. Something new, relief. Tears slipped down her cheeks, slow at first, then faster. But they didn't hurt. Not like before. Zephyr stepped closer, pressing his side into her knee, lifting his head so it fit perfectly under her small palm. Like it belonged there, like it always had. She whispered something, too soft for microphones, too gentle for transcripts. But Zephyr heard it. Everyone saw her lips form the words. "Thank you." Her tiny voice broke in the middle, not from fear, but from gratitude. For the first time since the trial began, she wasn't shrinking, wasn't clutching the boot like a shield. She was just breathing. Jace stood behind her, throat tight, eyes wet, jaw clenched to keep himself together. He exhaled a shaky breath when he saw her hand resting so naturally on Zephyr's fur. Mandy Parker cried openly. Tom squeezed her shoulder, blinking hard. Even Judge Reeves brushed the corner of his eye before clearing his throat. "This court," he said, "will recess for 10 minutes to prepare for immediate evidentiary submission." He struck the gavel once, not harsh, not angry, something closer to reverent. "Truth," he whispered, "has spoken." The courtroom stayed frozen as Amelia leaned down, pressing her forehead against Zephyr's. Her tears slipped into his fur. His warm breath softened the air between them. And for the first time in months, she wasn't scared. She was free. If the moment Judge Reeves said, "Truth has spoken," felt like the courtroom finally exhaled after months of holding its breath, then walking out of the courthouse afterward was like stepping into a brand new world. One Amelia hadn't seen in a long, long time, maybe ever. The heavy wooden doors groaned open as Officer Jace pushed them forward. Cold Oregon air rushed inside, a wave that brushed over Amelia's cheeks, cooling the fresh tear tracks still glistening on her skin. Zephyr walked beside her, not leading, not following, just perfectly in step, like he wasn't guiding her anymore, but walking with her. The sound outside hit them first. Not chaos, not shouting, not the frenzy of reporters scrambling for a headline, just a low hum. Hundreds of voices muffled by courthouse stone. But the moment the doors opened, everything shifted. Camera shutters fired, microphones thrust forward, news anchors scrambled, tripping over their own feet just to get the shot. Is that her? Move! Move! Give me a clear frame! That's the girl, the one from Maple Hollow. Still. No one stepped too close. Not after what happened in courtroom 9B. It was like the whole crowd instinctively knew this moment wasn't theirs to rush. Jace placed a steady hand on Amelia's shoulder as they stepped onto the top stair. Mandy and Tom Parker stood behind them, not blocking, not shielding, just supporting, like pillars. But Amelia wasn't looking at cameras, or crowds, or the sea of flashing lights. Her eyes were fixed on Zephyr. She sank down onto the cold stone step and wrapped both arms around Zephyr's neck. He leaned into her instantly, pressing his forehead to her cheek, as if whispering without a single sound. Only once she was grounded did she lift her face toward Jace. Her voice was small, fragile, but clearer than before. We did it. She swallowed hard. Right? We did it? It wasn't a question about the trial, not about evidence, not about verdicts. It was a child asking if she was finally safe. Jace crouched down, level with her. His voice caught before he managed. Yeah, kiddo. You did it. You both did. Zephyr let out a soft huff, agreement, comfort, and something like pride all at once. The reporters fell silent. The crowd quieted. Even the traffic seemed to hush itself, just to witness this moment. Amelia buried her face in Zephyr's fur again. He didn't move, didn't shift, didn't breathe too loudly. He just let her hold on. Like he understood this silence was sacred. One photographer lowered her camera, eyes glassy. A journalist wiped his glasses like the world suddenly blurred. A mother in the crowd hugged her son tighter. Then, one pair of hands began to clap, soft, gentle, echoing against courthouse stone. Then another, and another. Suddenly, the entire crowd erupted, not in wild cheering, not in chaos, but in applause. Deep, warm, overflowing applause, rolling down the courthouse steps like a wave of light. Not for spectacle, not for scandal, but for a little girl who survived, for a dog who saved her voice, for a truth that refused to stay quiet. Amelia startled, eyes darting up, fear flickering for a second, But Zephyr pressed against her leg, and the fear softened. She blinked up at the crowd, confused, overwhelmed, as hundreds of people clapped for her, not at her, not because of her, for her. Mandy Parker cried openly, clutching Tom's sleeve. Jace wiped his eyes, pretending it was dust. Even Judge Reeves had stepped onto the landing, hands clasped behind him, expression soft, proud. Amelia lifted a shaky hand and placed it gently over Zephyr's heart. Zephyr. Her voice trembled, but with hope this time. We're okay now. Zephyr closed his eyes and leaned into her chest. Something in Amelia cracked open. Not a wound, a sunrise. Warm, slow, quiet. She didn't even realize she was smiling until Mandy gasped softly behind her. The applause didn't fade. It grew and grew and grew, because everyone there knew exactly what they were witnessing. Not just a legal victory, but a child stepping out of the dark, on her own 2 feet, in her own small, brave way, with a dog who refused to let her walk alone. Cameras zoomed in. Microphones captured breaths, not words. The world watched. But none of that mattered. Not right now. Right now, it was just a girl, a dog, and a truth that finally had room to breathe. If stepping out onto those courthouse steps felt like Amelia finally touched the sunlight again, then the ceremony at Liberty Park, 1 week later, was the moment the whole town decided to shine that sunlight directly onto her and Zephyr, whether they were ready for it or not. Liberty Park sat in the heart of Silver Ridge, a wide stretch of green, tall trees swaying like they were always listening, a little fountain that never stopped talking. Normally, it was joggers, kids on bikes, old couples feeding ducks. But today, it looked like the entire town showed up. Folding chairs covered the lawn. Blue and white balloons drifted in the wind. A temporary stage stood beneath a long banner, Honor Day, celebrating courage in our community. Behind the podium stood a woman whose presence alone could quiet a crowd. Chief Dana Collins, tall, sharp, silver streaks in her hair, like she'd weathered 1,000 storms and outstared every one of them. But when she saw Zephyr and Amelia approach, her expression softened. Just a notch. Jace guided them to the front row. Mandy and Tom hovered protectively nearby. Amelia clutched the cleaned, polished K9 boot, no longer a shield, but a keepsake. Zephyr walked with a regal stride, tail swaying in calm arcs, as if he knew the day was about him, but also not just about him. Chief Collins stepped up to the mic. The entire park fell silent. "Good evening, Silver Ridge," she began, voice carrying across the grass with warm authority. "Tonight isn't about ranks, or badges, or job titles." She scanned the crowd. "It's about bravery, real bravery, the kind that doesn't always look like heroism from the outside." Her eyes rested on Amelia, then on Zephyr. "And sometimes," she said softly, "our heroes walk on 4 legs. And sometimes they whisper instead of shout. A murmur rippled, soft, emotional. Chief Collins lifted a velvet box, turning toward Zephyr. "This dog," she said, "has saved more lives than any of us can count. He has served the Silver Ridge Police Department with dedication, instinct, and heart. But what he did in courtroom 9B," she shook her head slowly. "No training manual could ever prepare a K-9 for that." She opened the box. Inside, a gleaming medal with a deep blue ribbon. "Zephyr," she said, "by the authority of the Silver Ridge PD, I award you the Medal of Valor, our highest commendation." A soft gasp rolled through the crowd. Zephyr sat taller, chest out, head high, still as stone. Chief Collins knelt, an act that quieted the park as if something sacred were happening, and clipped the medal onto Zephyr's collar. The crowd erupted. Claps, cheers, whistles from the officers. But Zephyr didn't puff up, didn't strut. He simply turned and nudged Amelia's hand. The applause somehow got louder. When the noise softened, Chief Collins lifted another box. Smaller, silver, engraved. "And now," her voice tightened just slightly, "for the bravest child I have ever met." Amelia's breath stalled. She never expected anything for herself. Chief Collins approached slowly, giving Amelia time to freeze or run. But Amelia didn't move. She stayed right there, fingers twined in Zephyr's fur. "This," Collins whispered, opening the box, a silver medal with a white ribbon, "is the Courage Beyond Silence Award." A hush swept the park. Even Jace blinked hard. "This medal," Collins continued, "is for someone who didn't just survive." A breath. She fought. Without fists. Without shouts. Without the kind of strength the world usually recognizes. She knelt. Right in front of Amelia, the chief of police, kneeling for a child. "Amelia Brooke," she said gently, "your courage changed the course of justice." A pause, soft, reverent, "and it changed us." She placed the medal in Amelia's trembling hands. The metal was cool, heavy, real. Amelia pressed it to her chest. Zephyr leaned into her, their shoulders touching. 2 medals, 2 survivors, 2 stories braided together. The crowd rose in a standing ovation, rolling across Liberty Park like a warm tide. Jace wiped his face openly. Mandy cried into Tom's sleeve. Kids on bikes stopped mid-pedal. Old couples clapped with trembling hands. Amelia looked up at Zephyr. Zephyr looked down at her. And in that quiet, breathless second, the whole world faded away, leaving only the 2 of them. Side by side, 2 lights, learning to live again. If the ceremony at Liberty Park felt like the entire town wrapping Amelia and Zephyr in a warm blanket of applause, then the moment afterward, the one that truly mattered, happened far away from crowds, far from microphones, far from flashing cameras. It happened beneath a giant redwood on the quiet edge of Silver Ridge, old enough to have watched generations come and go, strong enough to hold all the secrets kids whispered beneath it. The sun was starting to dip, warm gold sliding through branches, a soft breeze carrying the scent of pine and dirt. The kind of evening that makes the world feel gentle. Amelia held Zephyr's boot to her chest as she walked. Not the new one. Not the polished one from the ceremony. The old one. Scuffed leather. Worn Velcro. Scratches that told 100 stories no one else knew. The boot that held the recorder. The boot that saved her voice. The boot that once felt like the only armor she had. Jace followed a few steps behind, trying to look casual, hands in his jacket pockets, but watching her like a dad watching a kid ride a bike for the first time. Zephyr padded beside Amelia, brushing against her knee every few steps, just checking, just reminding her he was there. They reached the base of the redwood, and Amelia stopped. The trunk towered above her, a reddish-brown wall of time and quiet strength. Ferns crowded around its roots. The air felt heavier, meaningful. Amelia knelt and placed the old boot beside her. For a moment, she didn't move. Her fingers traced the scuffed leather, every mark familiar, every thread part of her story. She exhaled shakily. Jace took one step closer, then paused. "Hey, kiddo. You sure you want to do this?" Amelia nodded, chin trembling. "Yeah, I think it's time." She dug her small hands into the soft earth. The soil was cool, damp, crumbling between her fingers. She scooped once, twice, again, until she made a small hollow at the root of the redwood, big enough for a memory, not big enough for a burden. Zephyr sat quietly beside her. Every time her breath caught, he leaned closer. Every time she paused, he nudged her elbow, just enough to say, "You're okay." When the hollow was ready, Amelia lifted the old K9 boot with both hands. She stared at it for a long, trembling moment. The storm in Maple Hollow, the cold floor beneath the bed, the weight of fear, the way she held this boot like it was the only safe thing in the world. All of it flooded back at once. Her voice came out as a breath of a whisper. "I don't need you anymore." Jace's breath hitched, loud enough that he turned away to pretend he was inspecting a tree branch. Amelia kept going. Her fingertips brushed the leather one last time. "You helped me. You really did. But—" She swallowed, turned to Zephyr. "I have him now." Zephyr pressed his head into her shoulder. Slow, steady, grounding. A tiny smile trembled onto her lips. Then, with hands shaking from emotion, not fear, she lowered the boot into the hollow beneath the redwood. She placed it gently, not like something broken, but like something honored, returned, released. She covered it with soil, slow, deliberate handfuls, Each touch of earth felt like a breath she'd held too long, a fear she didn't need anymore, a piece of her past finally allowed to rest. When she finished, she sat back and wiped her cheek with her sleeve. Jace sniffed behind her, too loud to hide it. "Damn allergies," he muttered. Amelia turned. "You're crying." Jace froze. "Me? No, absolutely not. That's tree pollen. Redwood pollen. Very strong. Extremely dangerous." Zephyr huffed, like even he didn't buy it. Amelia giggled. Soft. Fragile. Beautiful. She pressed her small palm to the fresh mound of soil. "Goodbye," she whispered. "Thank you." The redwood branches swayed overhead, as if they understood. Sunlight slipped through, one last warm beam, landing gently on her face, like the world itself was proud of her. She stood slowly. Zephyr rose with her. Jace stepped close enough to rest a hand on her shoulder. "You did something brave today," he murmured. Amelia didn't look up. She didn't need to. Her hand found Zephyr's fur. "I know, because he taught me." And the three of them, girl, guardian, and the man who believed in both, walked away from the redwood, leaving the past gently buried where it belonged. Not forgotten, just free. If burying the old K9 boot beneath the redwood was the moment Amelia finally let go of her past, then what happened next was the moment she stepped fully into her future. A few days later, she asked, quietly, cautiously, if they could stop by Maple Hollow. Not the street, not the house, just the park. "The safe part," she whispered, "where it's sunny." So that's where they went. Liberty Park in Maple Hollow wasn't big or impressive, but when the sun hit just right, it looked like someone poured liquid gold across the grass. Late afternoon rays turned everything warm, gentle, hopeful. Amelia stepped out of the car first. For the first time in months, her hands were empty. No boot, no blanket, no jacket sleeve pulled over her fists. Just herself. Zephyr hopped out behind her, tail high, ears alert, nose scanning the air as if checking the world before she walked into it. But Amelia walked forward anyway. Slow at first, careful, sneakers brushing through the grass, breathing steady, shoulders loose, not hunched, not guarded, just present. Jace watched from the sidewalk, arms crossed, pretending he wasn't sweating bullets. Mandy squeezed Tom's arm. Tom whispered, "Let her go, she needs this." And he was right. Amelia reached the center of the field. The sun fell across her face, warm, soft, almost like a blessing. She closed her eyes. The wind tugged at her hair. The world smelled like summer and beginnings. She stood there, breathing, just breathing. Then a spark, courage, curiosity, or maybe the weight of 1,000 hard days finally lifting. Whatever it was, she ran. Not far, not fast, but freely. Her shoes thudded against the earth. Her arms flew out wide. And her laughter, bright, real, alive, burst out of her like it had been waiting months to escape. Zephyr didn't wait for permission. He bolted after her, paws pounding the ground, ears flapping, his whole body glowing in the sunset. His fur caught the light like molten gold. Amelia squealed, pure delight, when she saw him gaining on her. "You're too fast!" Her voice rang across the park like a bell, clear, unbroken, whole. Zephyr barked, playful, sharp, and sprinted faster, sweeping ahead of her in a protective arc. He nudged her gently from the side. She stumbled into a laugh. He slowed, matching her pace. Guardian and friend, running together in the golden light. From where Jace stood, the moment didn't feel real. A girl who once hid under a bed, silent, shaking, now racing across a field with the dog who found her. A child who once buried her voice, now shouting joy into the wind. Mandy wiped her face. Tom smiled through tears. Jace whispered, "That's my girl." Amelia collapsed into the grass, gasping, laughing, kicking her feet in the air. Zephyr flopped beside her and rolled onto his back like he'd just run a marathon. Amelia giggled again. That soft, rising giggle that sounds like healing. She turned her face toward the sky, pink, orange, gold all melting together, and whispered, "We did it." Zephyr nudged her cheek. Slow, soft, steady, she rested her hand on his chest. His heartbeat thumped gently under her palm. Alive, loyal, here. And then, the narrator voice inside her, inside all of us, finally found the right words. Sometimes, to save a life, all it takes is one dog brave enough to believe in a human before the human learns to believe in themselves. Amelia exhaled, a long, deep, peaceful breath. The kind you take when you realize you're finally free. The sun kept sinking, painting everything with its last burst of orange light. Zephyr sat tall beside her, like a knight standing over his queen, and Amelia leaned into him, not because she was scared, but because she chose to. Because trust wasn't a shield anymore. It was a gift she could finally give back. Behind them, no one moved. Not the officer, not the foster parents, not a single soul. It was a sunset worth remembering, a sunset that felt like a promise, a sunset that whispered, "You're safe now. You're home. You're whole." And now, gently, a question for you. If you were there, in the middle of that sunset, what touched you the most? 1. Amelia's laughter. The sunlight glowing on Zephyr's back. 5. The moment they ran together. Or 6. Another condition.